Okay, here we go. Let's get started. Yeah, this is if you don't really know much about the Mongols. I'm trying to help you guys out. See if you get this. All right, so let's get started with the Mongols. These are a good classic tribe that grows into something amazing. All right. So, who are they and where do they come from? So, to start off, these are nomadic tribes. If you don't know what a nomad is or a nomadic is, it means people who move from one place to another instead of living in one place. So they really don't have a like area at the beginning. They don't have anything together. So this is where they start off right here. If you saw I circled, that's where they start off. They don't really have a home. They just travel around this whole area. Eventually what ends up happening is they join together. And they kind of always did that. They kind of always did that. So the groups, each tribe would join together. They would only join in case of danger or if they had to go and they were going to go attack somebody. They would join together, each tribe of nomadic tribes. They would join together and they would, if they find a common enemy, and they would attack them. Or if somebody was trying to attack them, they would join together and fight the danger. We usually see them in the north part of Asia, which I already just showed you. This part right here, area I circled. That's where they started off. So they weren't really a group that like were always together, but only when danger was there, they were. But it all changes. It's gonna change. It changes with this guy. Let's see if you know who he is. His name is Genghis Khan. You probably have already kind of heard of him, but if you don't know who he was the main leader. As a child, his dad was also part of his tribe. What eventually does, he becomes the leader, and he actually joins all the tribes together. Tells all the small tribes, let's all join together and fight together. Let's all join and fight one common enemy. And at the end, make sure we end up having a great, great nation. All right. So the people that he got to join, his troops, for one thing, you have to know one thing. They were really, really fierce. These guys were disciplined. All right. They always had the best soldiers. They were very disciplined in what they did. They were very serious in what they did. They did not play around when it came to war. They were straightforward. And because of that, because of their discipline and because of how great warriors they were and the type of weapons they used, they were able to capture what we now know most of Asia. So, if you look at it in the green, everything in the green was what Genghis Khan captured. Let's make one more time to where they were and look what they captured. So, they were around this area, their small tribe, and if you look at the green, this is what they captured with one ruler, his name, Genghis Khan. They were able to capture all of that area. Great, right? It's big. He's able to do a lot. Captures most of what you now know as Asia. He goes into a little bit of Europe, and not much really, a little bit of maybe the Islamic world as well, but not really much. But if you see, there's another color, and it's orange. Genghis Khan dies eventually. But everything else that is in orange is what his sons and his grandsons capture for the Mongols. So even though he dies, his family still goes on without, even though he's dead already. And he captures everything in orange. They are able to capture everything in orange. So you see why I meant this was a great, great nation. They were able to do so much, capture so much. All right? Okay. So their legacy. They continue. I just told you eventually Genghis Khan dies. His sons and his grandsons continue his work. They continue to conquer places like the rest of, or like Russia and the rest of China and part of the Muslim territories. All right. So this is the area, and eventually they capture, keep on going, and they capture what we now know as Russia. Russia is this area right here. For the most part, they capture a good chunk of Russia, and they capture a good chunk of the Islamic world as well. Let me Go to this. This is the Islamic world for the most part. They're able to capture that area. They're able to get that area, and then they're under their control now. So the one thing that you also need to understand is that as they capture these areas, they don't go easy on the people that are there. You just because you were not part of the troops or the army that was going against them, didn't mean they go easy on you. They actually didn't care. They were pretty brutal. They would kill you. Like, hey, if you were part of the nation that didn't go with us or didn't listen to us when we told you we want you to surrender, then you are gonna die. So they would kill everybody, women, men, children, whatever. They were very, they were pretty bad at that. They were, like I said, they are known for their brutality as they conquered these areas. All right. So let's continue. But under the control rule, contrary to what you might think, Mongols were actually quite accepting of different cultures and religions. They might have been brutal when killing people, but the people they actually kept alive were artisans, people that made crafts, people that made pots, people that were scholars as well, that were like philosophers, and all of this. Why? Because of the different cultures they brought it together. All right. So if they brought different cultures, that means that they had to trade. Trading was a big plus. Many cultures ended up trading under the rule. This began what we now know as cultural diffusion. Cultural diffusion is the spread of cultural beliefs and social activities from one group to another. Here, this picture shows it perfectly. You see, they're doing cultural diffusion because they're spreading their cultural, even though it's just like pots and pans and trading, they're spreading their culture with one another. And they're doing it from group to group. That's what cultural diffusion is. And then let me show you the back picture right here. Back picture right here. This is kind of cultural diffusion. This is part of the Silk Roads. All right. I told you about Mongolians. They started off right here. They started off right here. They end up spreading so much, but they're acceptable of cultural diffusion. So they start saying, hey, go ahead and trade with each other. So this area right there will start trading all the way up to here. Or maybe some people from this area started trading up to here. It was all fine because they were under one ruler. The ruler was the Mongols. So do you see why? If it was before, they had different cultures here and different cultures here. They probably didn't like each other because they had different cultures and different beliefs. But now they're under one ruler, the Mongols. The Mongols are the ruler. So now it's acceptable to trade because the ruler is the same. So it doesn't matter who you're trading with here because the Mongols are in charge. It doesn't matter who you're trading with right here because the Mongols are in charge. So essentially you could trade with anybody from here to here. Before you couldn't do that. You could only trade with here, with them, and then with them because you were afraid that these guys might attack these guys in the process. But now that the Mongols are in charge, anybody could trade with anybody here. And that was good. It was peaceful. Believe it or not. I just said they were very, very brutal in killing, but it was peaceful when it came to trading. And a lot of people like that. Now let's go back to why they would leave scholars alive. What do you think? Hmm. The reality is they would leave scholars alive is for their work. Scholars were the smartest people. They needed scholars. All right. If I decide, I'm the Mongol, I'm right here. I decide I'm gonna take this area right here. I'm gonna kill everybody else except the scholars. And the reason I don't kill the scholars is because they know the land. The scholars know the area. They know what type of government they have. So if I'm a Mongol, and the Mongols were pretty bright at this, they said, well, let's keep the scholars alive because they know how to rule. So they would ask for their advice. What would be the best thing? Show me the best thing for me to rule this area. What do I have to do to rule? Why? How would people accept me as a ruler? So that's why they would keep the scholars alive. The scholars were the smartest. So obviously they would know how to rule the country. So they might not look like the brightest people, the Mongolians, but they were very good at knowing how to rule different areas. Right? That's why they kept the scholars alive. Other than that, as well, they kept scholars alive because if this area was enemies to that area right here, then they would use them. Like, hey, tell me what's the best strategies that I could use to kill and burn this area so I could conquer it. So many of the scholars would be used for that. They would also use them to make weapons. They would also use them to make uh, so they could make maps because they don't know the area, and these scholars do know the area. So eventually they could make maps for them, and so in other words, they were like their strategy. Yeah, that's how they became great as a nation. So one of the first countries they got was Russia. That's main right there. You see where I put the flag? The flag is right here. That's where they were. So Russia was one of the main ones they took. All right, so from here on out, I'm going to give you a plus and a negative. So a plus means it's positive, and it's only positive for the Mongolians. It's not really positive for the Russians or any other countries they took over. It's not really positive for them because they're just losing their culture. All right, so it's positive for the Mongolians that they get Russia because now they have their religion and their culture, and they're permitted to continue as long as they pay high tribute. In other words, we're going to allow you to keep your culture, but you got to give me money. If you don't give me money, then I'm not going to allow you to have anything, and I'm going to attack you. All right? But the bad part for the Russians as well is now that they're captured, they are being isolated from the rest of Europe. So they don't know what's going on in Europe because they're under the control of the Mongols. They don't know if there's a war going on. They don't know if the Christianity is even developing anymore. They don't have those ideas anymore because the Mongols are in control. All right, now let's go to China. Sorry, China. For China, it's kind of sad for them because they keep on always being attacked for the Mongols. We already talked to you how the Mongols already took the top part of China. Now they're going to go in for all of China. So they decide to go for all of China. So China controls to foreign contacts and trade. So in other words, they control most of their trading for China. And for the first time ever, we see that China is under control up to 300 years. They are united. I mean, that's a positive in general for the Mongols because they unite China. But that's a negative because they're being captured by Mongols in general. All right. But even though they captured China, the Mongols do not want to interact with them that much. They don't want to integrate themselves. They kind of say, "We captured you. We're your owners. Just don't get close to us. It's all good. Just don't be close to us." All right. And that's mainly because they feel that if they they interact with China, the Chinese people, then they're probably going to lose their culture because they from the beginning they never liked Chinese people. They were not the greatest of friends. All right. So that's why a lot of them are afraid of the Mongols. Like we captured you, just we're not going to really interact with you though. Next thing, the next country is the Islamic world. The Islamic world from the beginning, they started capturing part of it. This is the Islamic sign if you didn't know. This is everything that I colored right here. As you see, these are the Islamic areas that they captured. All right. So in there, the majority, so believe it or not, it was kind of iffy for the Mongols because some of them actually converted to Muslim or Islam, and the Muslims started to absorb them. You see, that's exactly what they didn't want in China, but they got it with the Islamic world. They didn't want to be captured by their culture, but it did happen with Islam. So a positive for the Mongols. They were able to capture the majority of Baghdad, what we know now, and then they were able to capture a good chunk of the Islamic world. They killed in the process a whole bunch of people, and the Islamic world really hates them because they killed their actual sultan, which is their actual leader. They killed him pretty horribly, and but in the long run, the Islamic world is able to fight back at the end because of poor administration of the Mongols. The Ottoman Empire, which you'll probably learn about later, decides to rise up, and they are able to control and take back what is theirs, and Mongols ended up losing that area. So what happens in the end to the Mongols? This is what happens to the end, the last of its kind. We don't see any more of these nomadic people taking control. The Mongols were the last of their kind. Okay, the Mongols started to die within. They started to die within. They kind of killed themselves out. One of their last leaders was named Kublai Khan. I can't pronounce it right. But he's one of the last leaders. Eventually he dies. When he dies, his son is in control. But his son is not a great leader. He's not like his dad. And what ends up happening is, since they saw that he's not a great leader, many of the countries start to see that he's not a great leader, so they start to rebel, especially the ones that were captured by him, like Russia and the Islamic world and China. They all start to attack back because he's not the greatest leader. So eventually they do attack back, and they ended up just the majority of the Mongols ended up going back to their area, that small area that I told you in the beginning. They ended up falling out and fleeing to that area. And at the end, at least in China, the Ming Dynasty takes over. And that's the end of the Mongols. Hope this really helped you out. All right.